"Jump in, Ethan," Derek Walsh shouted from the dock, his phone already in his hand. "She's drowning, be a man for once." Audrey Hart splashed below the old wooden pier, her white senior picnic dress spreading over the lake water like a torn flag. She slapped the surface, coughed, and screamed my name again. Audrey cried loudly, "Ethan, please, help me." The whole senior class froze between the picnic tables and the shoreline. Girls screamed. Guys ran closer but stopped at the red warning sign nailed to the rail: "No swimming, deep drop, use rescue ring, call 911. I stood at the edge of the dock and looked at Audrey. I looked at Derek's phone. I looked at the orange rescue ring hanging 6 feet from his right shoulder. In my last life, I had jumped without thinking. I had hit the cold water, fought the drop-off, grabbed Audrey around the waist, dragged her back while she coughed into my shoulder, and thought I had saved a classmate. Derek had filmed only 11 seconds, my arms around her crying, me breathing hard. Audrey had said I grabbed her on purpose. Derek had said I waited because I wanted a chance to touch her. Mr. Grant had called me a risk to the school's image. Principal Marsh had suspended me during senior week. My scholarship committee had requested an explanation. Audrey's edited clip had ruined my name before the full truth could breathe. This time, I stepped back from the edge. Derek's eyes sharpened. Derek shouted, "What are you doing? She needs you." I pulled the rescue ring off the post, braced my feet, and threw it hard. The ring landed beside Audrey with a slap. I shouted, "Audrey, grab the ring." She looked at it. She looked at me. For half a second, the panic on her face stopped like someone had hit pause. Then she slapped the water again and screamed louder. Audrey cried, "I can't reach it, Ethan. Come get me." The ring bumped her arm. She pushed it away once, then grabbed it when she saw Ms. Harper running toward the dock from the pavilion. I took out my phone and dialed 911. Derek shoved my shoulder. Derek snapped, "You coward, get in the water." I turned my body so Mike Reynolds, sprinting up from the picnic tables, had a clean angle with his camera. I said loudly, "I'm calling 911. I threw flotation. Nobody untrained jumps into a restricted deep water area." Mike lifted his phone and shouted, full video rolling, "Mess." Harper reached the dock and pointed at the crowd. "Ms. Harper yelled, 'Back up, everyone back.'" From the edge, Derek tried to shove past me toward the rescue ring post. I caught his wrist before he could block the sign from Mike's camera. I said, "Do not touch me." Derek hissed, "You're done." The 911 operator answered. Operator asked, 911, "What is your emergency?" I put the phone on speaker. I said clearly, "Female student in lake at Harlan County Park, senior picnic area, restricted deep water zone. She is conscious and holding a rescue ring. We need lifeguards and medical check." Audrey heard the operator and gripped the ring tighter. A park lifeguard whistle shrieked from the boathouse. 2 lifeguards ran down the shore with a rescue board. Derek turned his phone toward my face and shouted, "Look at him, he's just standing there while Audrey is drowning." I looked straight into his camera. I said, "She is holding flotation. Lifeguards are entering the water. 911 is on the line. You are filming a false story." Derek's jaw tightened. Mike stepped beside him with his own phone. Mike said, "And I'm filming the person filming the false story." Derek snapped, "Shut up, Reynolds." Mike said, "Bad line. Try again." With more guilt, the first lifeguard reached Audrey. Audrey clung to the ring. Her feet kicked under the water, but she was not sinking. The lifeguard clipped a strap to the ring and pulled her toward the rescue board. The second lifeguard stabilized the board. Ms. Harper kept students back. Principal Marsh was not there yet. Mr. Grant was at the pavilion yelling into his phone. Derek kept filming, but his camera stayed tight on my face. I kept my phone on speaker. Operator asked, "Is the person still breathing and responsive?" I answered, "Yes, lifeguards have contact. She is being pulled to shore now." Audrey began crying louder as soon as she reached shallow water. The lifeguards helped her onto the grass. She coughed twice, then sat up before the medical kit even opened. Derek ran down the steps and crouched beside her. Audrey wrapped the silver emergency blanket around her shoulders, looked straight at me, and sobbed. He watched me drown. The crowd went silent. I did not move. I held the phone higher. Operator said, "Sir, are responders with her now?" I said, "Yes, and the rescued student is making a false statement after professional rescue." Mike whispered, "Holy hell." Ms. Harper looked at Audrey, then at me, then at Derek's phone. Ms. Harper said firmly, Audrey, Ethan threw the ring and called 911. Audrey shook her head, water dripping from her hair. Audrey cried. He refused to come in. I begged him. Derek stood and pointed at me. Derek yelled. Everybody saw it. He didn't even try. Lifeguard Carla, the woman who had pulled Audrey in, snapped her gloves off and said, "He followed proper rescue procedure. Untrained students do not jump into restricted water." Derek said. "She could have died," Carla said. "And if he jumped after her, he could have died too." Audrey's eyes flashed at Carla, then dropped back into tears. "Mr. Grant pushed through the students with his counselor badge swinging." "Mr. Grant said, everyone put phones away. This is a serious incident." Mike kept filming. Mike said, "That's why I'm serious." Mr. Grant pointed at him. Mr. Grant said, "Put it away now." Mike said, "No." The crowd sucked in a breath. Mr. Grant stepped closer. Mike held up his screen. Mike said, "Derek posted edited trash last time something happened. I'm not letting him do it again." Derek's face changed. Mr. Grant heard "last time" and looked at me. I said nothing. The ambulance siren grew louder beyond the trees. Audrey clutched the blanket and rocked like she was on stage. Derek crouched beside her and whispered something. Mike caught that too. By the time the paramedics arrived, Derek's first clip was already online. The clip was 19 seconds. Audrey screaming. Derek yelling at me to jump. My body standing at the dock. No rescue ring. Number 911 call. No lifeguards. No warning sign. The caption said, "Ethan Miller watched Audrey Hart drown because she rejected him." It hit the senior group chat before the paramedics finished checking her oxygen. Someone reposted it to the Westbridge High gossip page. Someone added dramatic music. Someone wrote, "This is what a psychopath looks like." My phone buzzed in my hand while the 911 call log still sat on screen. Mike cursed under his breath. Mike said, "He already cut it." I looked at Principal Marsh's car turning into the gravel lot. I said, "Then we post the full version." Ms. Harper stepped close. Ms. Harper said quietly, "Ethan, wait until the school reviews it." Derek, still beside Audrey, heard her and smiled. Derek said loudly, "Yes, Ethan, don't make it worse for yourself." Audrey's eyes stayed red and wet, but her mouth moved just enough for a small smile to appear and vanish. That smile was for me. That smile said she remembered too. I handed my phone to Ms. Harper. I said, "Save the 911 call record. I'm not deleting anything." Principal Marsh came fast across the grass, followed by Vice Principal Cole. Principal Marsh said, "What happened?" Audrey's mother had not arrived yet, but Audrey already sounded ready for a camera. Audrey cried, "I fell in, and Ethan just stood there. I called his name. He wouldn't help." Derek held up his phone. Derek said, "I recorded it." Mike lifted his phone. Mike said, "So did I. Except mine starts before she crossed the rope." Principal Marsh looked at the red rope barrier, then at Audrey. Principal Marsh asked, "You crossed the restricted line." Audrey coughed into the blanket. Audrey said weakly, "I slipped." Carla stepped forward with the park incident pad. Carla said, "She was beyond the barrier before entering the water. 2 students were filming before the fall." Derek snapped, "Are you accusing her of staging it?" Carla looked at him like he was a bad training example. Carla said, "I'm stating what I saw." Mr. Grant inserted himself between Principal Marsh and the students. Mr. Grant said, "We should not assign motive at the scene. Audrey is traumatized." I said, "And I'm already being accused online." Principal Marsh looked at me. Principal Marsh said, "Ethan, do not engage online." I held up Mike's phone, where Derek's edited clip was already at thousands of views. I said, "He engaged for me." Audrey pressed the blanket to her face and sobbed harder. Audrey said, "Why is he attacking me? I almost died." Mike said, "You almost got wet." Ms. Harper snapped. "Mike," he lowered his voice. Mike said, "Sorry, you almost got professionally rescued." Officer Lane arrived 8 minutes later. He took statements by the ambulance. Audrey repeated the same line. I begged. He refused. He stood there. Derek repeated his. Ethan hated Audrey. Ethan wanted revenge. Ethan did not move. I repeated the facts. Warning sign. Rescue ring. 911. Lifeguards. No untrained entry. Carla confirmed. Ms. Harper confirmed. Mike confirmed. Officer Lane asked Audrey, "How exactly did you enter the water?" Audrey looked at Derek. Derek answered for her. Derek said, "She slipped." Officer Lane looked at him. Officer Lane said, I asked her. Audrey swallowed. Audrey said, I was standing near the dock. My foot slipped. Mike raised one hand. Officer Lane said, yes. Mike said, my video shows Derek saying, do it from the dock. It'll look crazy. Before she went over the barrier, Derek lunged half a step. Cole blocked him. Derek shouted, he's lying. Mike tapped his phone. Mike said, I'm annoying, not lying. Officer Lane asked for the video. Mike sent it. Derek's face lost color. Audrey's wet fingers gripped the blanket so hard the foil tore. The school moved everyone back to campus after the ambulance cleared Audrey. She did not need hospital transport, but Mrs. Hart demanded a private doctor and screamed at the paramedic until Principal Marsh intervened. In the main office, the air conditioning hummed too loudly. Audrey sat in a chair with damp hair, a new sweatshirt from the Lost and Found wrapped around her shoulders. Derek sat beside her, jaw tight. Mr. Grant stood behind them like he represented the whole concept of reputation. Mom and Dad arrived 20 minutes later. Mom came straight from the hospital, still in her cleaning uniform. Dad came from the freight yard with dust on his boots. Mom looked at me first. Mom asked, are you hurt? I said, no, ma'am. Dad looked at Principal Marsh. Dad said, why is our son in a disciplinary office after calling 911? Mr. Grant said smoothly, no one has made a final determination. Mom turned to him. Mom said, then why is that boy's video calling my son a monster still online? Derek smirked. Derek said, people are allowed to have opinions. Dad looked at him. Dad said, opinions don't usually come with jump cuts. Principal Marsh cleared her throat. Principal Marsh said, we need to review all evidence. Mrs. Hart rushed in wearing sunglasses and a white linen jacket. Though the sky outside was cloudy, she hugged Audrey, then turned on me. Mrs. Hart said, you stood there while my daughter screamed. Mom stepped forward. Mom said, my son called emergency services. Mrs. Hart snapped, he should have jumped. Carla had come to the school at Officer Lane's request. She stood near the door with her park jacket still wet at the sleeves. Carla said, no, he should not have jumped. Mrs. Hart blinked, annoyed that a professional had spoken. Carla continued, in water rescue, the rule is reach, throw, row, then go. He threw flotation and called trained responders. That is correct, Derek muttered. Convenient. Officer Lane looked at him. Officer Lane said, young man, your convenience is not evidence. Mike sat outside the glass office wall, waving every time Derek glanced at him. Principal Marsh connected my phone to the office screen. The full video played from my angle. Audrey and Derek near the barrier. Audrey laughing nervously. Derek saying, do it from the dock. It'll look insane. Audrey saying, only if Ethan sees. Derek saying, he will, I'll get his face. Then Audrey stepped over the rope. She turned toward me. She waved. Then her heel slipped on the wet plank. The fall was real. The setup was real too. The room stayed silent as the video continued. Splash, scream, rescue ring, 911, lifeguards, accusation. Mrs. Hart's hand covered her mouth. Mr. Grant stared at the floor. Principal Marsh closed her eyes briefly when Audrey said, he watched me drown. Dad said quietly, play the wide shot. Mike's video came next. His angle caught Derek turning his body to hide the rescue ring from his own clip. It caught my throw. It caught Audrey pushing the ring away once, then grabbing it. It caught Derek whispering near the grass, say he didn't help. Audrey's head snapped toward him on screen. In the office, Audrey whispered, I was scared. Officer Lane paused the video. Officer Lane said, Ms. Hart, after you were brought to shore, Mr. Walsh told you to say Ethan did not help. Did you hear him? Audrey shook her head. Officer Lane replayed the audio louder. Derek's voice came clear. Say he didn't help. Mom's face went hard. Dad folded his arms. Mrs. Hart whispered, Audrey. Audrey began crying again. Audrey said, I didn't know what was happening. I leaned forward. I said, you knew enough to point at me. Mr. Grant stepped in. Mr. Grant said, Ethan, this is not productive. I turned to him. I said, neither was asking me to apologize before you watched the video. Mr. Grant's lips tightened. Principal Marsh said, no apology will be requested at this time. Derek's father called on speaker through the office phone before anyone could answer. Mr. Walsh said, my attorney will be present for any questioning involving my son. Dad leaned toward the phone. Dad said, Good, maybe he can explain editing. Principal Marsh muted the call fast. Mike knocked on the glass and gave a thumbs up. Officer Lane requested copies of all videos, 911 logs, and witness names. Audrey and Derek were sent home pending review. I was told to go home too, but not suspended. That word mattered. It mattered because in the last life, temporary suspension pending investigation, had become a knife. This time, I walked out of the office with my backpack on my own shoulder and my diploma still within reach. By 9 p.m., the edited clip had spread beyond school. A local drama page reposted it with the caption, "Top student refuses to save popular girl." By 10 p.m., strangers were in my comments calling me a coward, creep, incel, psycho, future criminal. Audrey posted an ambulance selfie even though she never rode in the ambulance. She sat on the grass wrapped in foil, eyes red, lips pale. The caption said, "Some people reveal their heart when you need them most." Derek commented, "We all saw who he really is." Audrey's followers flooded me. Mike opened a video call from his room. He had 3 screens, a bowl of cereal, and the expression of a man ready for war. Mike said, "Full upload is cut, captioned, and time-stamped. I blurred no one because they accused you in public." Mom stood behind my chair. Mom said, "We are not trying to destroy a girl." Mike nodded. Mike said, "Mrs. Miller, the girl brought dynamite and sat on it." Dad said, "Post facts, no insults." I uploaded the full doc video with the 911 call transcript and one caption. I called 911, through the rescue ring, and waited for trained lifeguards. Here is the full timeline. Mike posted his angle 12 seconds later. He added, "Derek cut out the rescue ring. Here is what he hid." Ms. Harper did not post, but she sent a witness statement to Principal Marsh, the district, and my parents. Carla's park department incident note went into the public accident log by morning. The internet turned in waves. First came confusion, then slow-motion breakdowns, then comments pointing out the red warning sign, then rescue instructors saying I did the right thing, then lifeguards stitching the video and explaining, reach, throw, row, go. Then people noticed Audrey pushed the ring once. Then people noticed Derek say he didn't help. At 6:40 a.m., Audrey deleted her ambulance selfie. At 6:43, screenshots of it were everywhere. At 7:12, Derek posted, "People are twisting a traumatic event." Mike replied with a clip of Derek saying, "I'll get his face." Derek blocked him. At 7:30, Principal Marsh sent a school-wide email telling students not to harass anyone and warning that false statements online could affect disciplinary review. The email did not name Audrey or Derek. Everybody knew. When I walked into Westbridge, the hallway noise dropped. Some students looked guilty. Some looked curious. A few still looked angry because changing sides too fast made them feel stupid. Mike met me at my locker with a chocolate milk. Mike said, "Good morning, Doc Monster. Status update. You are now downgraded from villain to responsible citizen." I opened my locker. I said, "That's progress." Derek slammed his locker 3 doors down. Derek said, "Enjoy your little hero act." I turned. I said, "I don't need to be a hero. The ring did the job." Students nearby laughed. Derek's face reddened. Derek stepped closer. Derek said, "You think this ends with some comments?" Mike lifted his phone without looking up. Mike said, "Careful, you're entering season 2. Derek looked at the camera and stepped back. Audrey did not come to first period. In second period, Ms. Harper turned the math lesson into a lesson on sequence and evidence. She put 4 statements on the board: event, clip, claim, full record. Ms. Harper said, "A short clip can show something true and still create a lie." The room was silent. Derek stared at his desk. Ms. Harper continued, "When people cut out context, ask why." Mike whispered, "Because they're Derek." Ms. Harper said without turning around, "Mr. Reynolds, I admire your consistency, not your timing." The room laughed. Derek did not. Audrey came to school after lunch. No usual crowd, no perfect hair, no bright smile. She wore sunglasses inside until Vice Principal Cole told her to remove them. She waited near the library hallway where fewer students stood. When I walked past with Mike, she said softly, "Ethan." Mike stopped beside me. Audrey looked at him. Audrey said, "Can we talk without him recording?" Mike held both hands up. Mike said, "I'm not recording right now." Audrey looked at the phone sticking out of his shirt pocket. Mike said, right now is doing a lot of work, I said. Talk, Audrey swallowed. Audrey said, people are threatening me, I said. Report threats. I don't support that. She seemed surprised I said it. Audrey said, you could tell them to stop, I said. I can tell people not to threaten you. I won't tell them you told the truth. Her lips trembled. Audrey whispered, I was scared in the water, I said. I believe that. Her shoulders lowered slightly. I continued, then you got safe and lied. She stepped back. Audrey said, I didn't know Derek said that on video. Mike said, that is not the defense you think it is. Audrey glared at him, then looked back at me. Audrey said, Derek pushed the idea. He said it would be dramatic content for senior week. I said, you crossed the rope. Audrey said, I didn't mean to fall. I said, you meant to make me jump. She said nothing. I opened my backpack and pulled out a printed screenshot from the last life's disaster, one I had recreated in this life as a note from memory, not evidence for court, but evidence for me. I did not hand it to her. I said, you wanted a clip where I had to touch you to keep you alive. Then you wanted control of the story. Audrey whispered, that's not fair. I put the paper away. I said, no, what you did was not fair. Audrey's face changed from pleading to hard. Audrey said, you're going to let them ruin me. I said, you posted first. Audrey said, I was upset. I said, you were strategic. Mike said quietly, and bad at it. Audrey's eyes filled. Audrey said, if I admit this, my college ambassador program is gone, my sponsorships are gone, my admission review will get flagged. You already have your grades, you already have your scholarship, why do you need this too? I looked at the hallway cameras, I looked at her phone in her hand. I looked at Mike watching both of us. I said, because my future is not your cleanup fund. Audrey flinched like I had slapped her. She turned and walked away. By final bell, a new post appeared from a throwaway account accusing me of enjoying Audrey's pain. It included no evidence. Mike traced the writing style in 5 minutes and said it sounded like Amber Lee, Audrey's best friend. I told him not to post that. He looked offended. Mike said, so we just let trash simmer. I said, we save it. He grinned. Evidence folder. I said, always. The first official hearing happened Tuesday afternoon. It was not the final graduation review, just a school conduct meeting. That meant everyone pretended it was small while the whole town watched outside. Principal Marsh sat at the head of the conference table. Dr. Levin from the district joined by video. Officer Lane attended in person. Carla from the park sat with her incident report. Mess. Harper sat beside me. Mom and Dad sat behind me because Dad said if adults wanted to play games, they could do it in front of working parents. Audrey came with her mother and an attorney. Derek came with his father and an attorney who kept checking his watch like truth billed hourly. Mr. Grant sat near the wall as student support staff, though nobody seemed supported by him. Principal Marsh began. Principal Marsh said, we are reviewing the lake incident, subsequent online posts, and any potential student conduct violations. Audrey's attorney spoke first. Attorney said, Audrey Hart experienced a real and frightening accident. Any prior conversation about filming does not erase her genuine distress. Carla nodded once. Carla said, distress was real. The accusation after rescue was false. The attorney's mouth tightened. Derek's attorney said, my client posted a short clip in a chaotic moment. It was not intended to defame. Mike, sitting in the visitor row, whispered. He added a caption. Dr. Levin said through the screen, Mr. Reynolds, you are here as a witness, not commentary. Mike said, yes, sir. Officer Lane played the short clip Derek posted, then he played the full clip, then the wide angle, then the audio cleanup of Derek saying, say he didn't help. Derek stared at the table. Audrey cried silently. Mrs. Hart kept one hand on Audrey's shoulder, but her fingers looked stiff. Dr. Levin asked Audrey, did you intend Ethan Miller to jump into the lake? Audrey whispered, I thought he would. Dr. Levin asked, for rescue or for the video? Audrey looked at her attorney. The attorney said, she should not have to speculate. Dr. Levin said, she can answer what she intended. Audrey's voice cracked. Audrey said, both. The room went still. Mom let out a breath. Dad's boots shifted on the floor. Dr. Levin asked, after you were rescued and safe, why did you say Ethan watched you drown? Audrey wiped her cheek. Audrey said, because I was angry. He didn't do what I expected. Everyone was watching. Mr. Grant looked down. Derek's attorney rubbed his forehead. Officer Lane turned to Derek. Officer Lane said, "Why did you cut out the rescue ring and 911 call?" Derek said, "The clip was short." Officer Lane said, "You chose the 19 seconds. Derek said nothing. Dr. Levin asked Mr. Grant, "Why did you advise Ethan to avoid posting full evidence after Derek's edited clip was already public?" Mr. Grant straightened. Mr. Grant said, "I was trying to reduce harm to the school community." Dad said, "The school community or the school image?" Principal Marsh said. "Mr. Miller, please." Dad leaned back. Dad said, "Still a fair question, Dr. Levin wrote something down. I was asked to explain why I did not jump. I answered with no drama. I said, the area was marked restricted. I am not trained in water rescue. I had flotation within reach. Lifeguards were present at the park. I called 911. I threw the ring. I kept students back. I followed safe procedure." Carla said, "Correct?" Audrey's attorney asked. "You never considered entering the water," I said, "not after she had flotation and..." Lifeguards were responding, attorney said, "But before that," I said, "before that, I was throwing the ring." Mike whispered, "Simple math." Dr. Levin warned him again. The meeting ended with temporary restrictions. Audrey and Derek were barred from senior events until final review. I remained in good standing. Derek slammed his chair into the table leg on his way out. Dad looked at him. Dad said, "That furniture didn't edit your video." Mike lost it in the hallway. Mom told him to breathe. The internet grew teeth over the next week. At first, the outrage focused on the lake. Then people started digging into Audrey's old content. She had built a clean, shiny online life out of staged kindness, graduation fashion partnerships, study with me reels, charity clips, senior advice videos, be kind when no one is watching, she used to say while making sure everyone was watching. A shelter volunteer commented under one repost. She filmed giving out food bags, then took them back because they were props. Audrey denied it. The volunteer posted security stills. A tutoring program student commented, "She came once, recorded herself helping us, and left before the worksheet started." Another old classmate posted a video of Audrey pretending to rescue a lost dog that belonged to her cousin. A commentary channel picked up the story under the title, "Influencer Fakes Drowning for Content. Blames Classmate Who Called 911. The host played Derek's short clip, my full clip, the rescue protocol explanation, then Audrey's old charity clips. The line that spread everywhere was, "She didn't need a hero, she needed footage." By Friday, Audrey lost 60,000 followers. 2 local sponsors pulled their graduation campaign. Her college ambassador program issued a review statement. Her early university admission did not disappear, but it became under conduct review. Derek's father tried to threaten the commentary channel and got mocked by 3 lawyers on social media. Derek stopped posting. Audrey posted one apology video Saturday morning. It was 2 minutes long, soft lighting, no comments allowed. Audrey said gently, "I made a mistake during a traumatic moment. I never meant to harm anyone." Mike watched it in my kitchen and paused after, "Mistake," Mike said, "crossing a rope, planning a clip, ignoring a ring, accusing you, and posting a selfie. That's a mistake with a table of contents." Mom said, "Don't comment." Mike said, "I typed nothing." My soul commented, "Audrey's apology backfired because she did not say my name, did not admit Derek told her what to say, and did not admit she tried to make me jump for content." Carla posted one sentence from the park department account, "Proper emergency response should never be reframed as abandonment," that got more likes than Audrey's apology. On Monday, Audrey came to school with no cameras, no friends, no halo. Students whispered, "Lake girl," until Ms. Harper snapped, "No harassment." I looked at Ms. Harper. She said quietly to me, "Accountability without cruelty, that applies to everyone." I nodded. Audrey heard it and looked almost grateful. Then she saw me and looked away. In government class, Mr. Adams assigned a debate about digital responsibility, and every student in the room looked at me, Audrey, or Derek. Mr. Adams changed the topic to federalism after 4 minutes. Mike whispered, "Federalism saved lives today." Derek was absent. His father had pulled him for family legal consultation, according to rumors. That afternoon, I found a folded note in my locker, no signature. It said, "Drop the complaint or your scholarship committee gets everything." I took a photo, bagged the note in a plastic sleeve from the office, and brought it to Principal Marsh. She looked at it for a long time. Principal Marsh said, "Do you believe Derek wrote this?" I said, "I believe Derek wants me to believe he can still reach my scholarship." She called Officer Lane. She also called my scholarship foundation to proactively document the situation. Mr. Grant was not allowed in the room for that call. That mattered too. Derek came back Wednesday and tried the old method, money and fear. He waited outside Lawson's garage after my shift, leaning against his SUV in a black hoodie, pretending not to look nervous. Mike was inside helping Mr. Lawson organize tools because he said every real investigation needed a warehouse scene. Dad had not arrived yet. I walked out with my backpack and saw Derek standing beside the passenger door. Derek said, "You made your point." I stopped 15 feet away under the garage floodlight. I said, "No, the videos made the point." Derek's jaw clenched. Derek said, "Audrey is losing everything." I said, "She should have thought of that before using a lake as a stage." He stepped forward. Derek said, "You think you're clean? My dad knows people on scholarship boards. All he has to do is raise concern, character concern, safety concern, mental stability concern." Mike's voice came from behind a stack of tires near the open bay. Mike said, "And witness intimidation concern." Derek flinched. Mike stepped out holding his phone. Mr. Lawson came out behind him with a wrench in one hand. Mr. Lawson said, "Boy, how many cameras do you need before you learn?" Derek pointed at me. Derek snapped, "This is harassment." I said, "You came to my workplace." Mike said, "At night." Mr. Lawson said, "With threats." Derek pulled an envelope from his hoodie and tossed it onto the hood of my truck. Derek said, "Fine, $8,000. Sign a statement saying you overreacted online and Audrey panicked after a real accident. You keep your scholarship, she keeps her school, everyone graduates." I looked at the envelope, then at the camera above the garage door. I picked it up with 2 fingers and held it toward the lens. I said clearly, "Derek Walsh offered $8,000 for me to change my statement about the lake incident." Derek lunged to grab it. Mr. Lawson slammed the wrench against the metal doorframe. The clang echoed through the lot. Mr. Lawson barked, "Touch him and you leave in cuffs." Derek froze. Mike said, "Strong advice." Derek spat on the ground. Derek said, "You people always want to ruin what you can't have." Dad's truck pulled in behind him. Dad got out slowly. Dad said, "You people." Derek looked at him and stepped back. Dad walked up beside me, work jacket still zipped, hands blackened with grease from the yard. Dad said, "My son has a diploma to collect. You have a bribe on camera. Which one of us is ruining things?" Derek turned toward his SUV. Mike said, "Don't forget your envelope." "Actually, do, evidence like staying." Derek got in and peeled out. Dad watched him go. Dad said, "Rich kids drive like consequences are optional." Mr. Lawson handed me the wrench. Mr. Lawson said, "Keep this in the shop, not your backpack." Mom did not laugh when she heard about the bribe. She sat at the kitchen table and read the police report twice. Mom said, "They will keep trying until graduation." Dad said, "Then we keep receipts until graduation." Mike texted from home, "Operation Smooth Graduation is live." I texted back, "Never call it that." He answered, "Too late, logo pending." The final graduation eligibility hearing was set for the following Monday. Audrey and Derek's lawyers requested separate hearings. The district denied it because the incident was connected. The room was larger this time. District conference hall, long table, flags in the corner, water pitchers nobody touched. Principal Marsh sat with Dr. Levin, Officer Lane sat with a folder, Carla sat with the park incident file, Ms. Harper sat behind me with my parents. Mike sat 2 seats away after promising Principal Marsh he would only speak when asked. Audrey entered with her mother. She looked smaller than she had at the lake, but not harmless. Derek entered with his father and attorney. His face tightened when he saw Mike. Mr. Grant entered last. No folder, no confidence. Dr. Levin opened the hearing. Dr. Levin said, "This proceeding concerns commencement participation, disciplinary records, and final certification for graduating seniors Ethan Miller, Audrey Hart, and Derek Walsh." My name first made Mom's hand tighten on my shoulder. Dr. Levin continued, "We will evaluate whether Ethan Miller failed to assist, whether he violated digital conduct policy by posting evidence, and whether subsequent conduct by Audrey Hart and Derek Walsh constitutes reckless endangerment, false accusation, harassment, intimidation, or evidence manipulation. Derek's attorney spoke first and tried to make the whole thing sound like teenage confusion. Attorney said, "A frightened girl fell, a frightened boy filmed, another frightened boy chose not to enter the water." Everything after that became internet chaos. Carla leaned forward. Carla said, "One frightened boy also called 911 and used rescue equipment correctly, Dr. Levin nodded. Officer Lane played the full timeline again, but this time he added the 911 call transcript, the park report, the garage bribe video, the anonymous locker note, and Derek's edited clip metadata. Derek's clip had been trimmed and captioned 4 minutes after Audrey reached shore, not in panic, after rescue, after accusation. Audrey's attorney focused on trauma. Attorney said, "Audrey's statement after the rescue came from shock." Officer Lane replied, "The video shows Derek instructing her before the statement." The attorney said, "She was still under distress." Carla said, "Distress does not create words someone else tells you to say." Audrey began crying again, but quietly this time. Dr. Levin asked Audrey, "Did you agree to create dramatic content involving Ethan Miller?" Audrey said, "Yes." Dr. Levin asked, "Did you intend for him to jump into the water?" Audrey said, "Yes." Dr. Levin asked, "After rescue, did you falsely state that he watched you drown?" Audrey covered her face. Mrs. Hart whispered, "Answer." Audrey said, "Yes." The word sat in the room like a dropped brick. Derek stared at the table. Dr. Levin asked Derek, "Did you cut your video to remove the rescue ring and 911 call?" Derek said, "I cut it short." Dr. Levin asked, "Did you caption it in a way that accused Ethan of refusing rescue?" Derek said nothing. Mr. Walsh leaned toward him. Derek said, "Yes." Dr. Levin asked, "Did you offer Ethan money to alter his statement?" Derek's attorney objected. Dr. Levin said, "The video is already admitted." Derek said, "I was trying to fix it." Dad muttered, "With cash?" Dr. Levin looked at Mr. Grant. Dr. Levin asked, "Why did you suggest Ethan apologize after evidence showed correct rescue response?" Mr. Grant swallowed. Mr. Grant said, "I believed a public apology could reduce tensions." Dr. Levin asked, "Did you review the full evidence at that point?" Mr. Grant said, "Not all of it," Mom said quietly, "but enough to pressure him." Dr. Levin did not correct her. "Then I was asked to speak. I stood. I said, I did not refuse to rescue Audrey. I refused to jump into restricted water when proper rescue tools were available. I refused to let an edited video replace the full record. I refused to trade my graduation for someone else's content strategy." Audrey looked down. Derek rolled his eyes. I continued, "I want to graduate. I want my scholarship certification sent without a false conduct note. I want the record to say what happened, not what Derek posted." Dr. Levin thanked me. The panel deliberated for 47 minutes. Nobody spoke much in the hallway. Mike bought chips from a vending machine and offered them to Carla, who took one. Mrs. Hart sat with Audrey and whispered into her hair. Mr. Walsh made phone calls by the window, each one shorter and angrier than the last. When we returned, Dr. Levin read the findings. Ethan Miller had followed proper emergency procedure. Ethan Miller had not violated student conduct policy by posting full evidence in response to a public false accusation. Ethan Miller would graduate in good standing with no disciplinary hold. My scholarship certification would be sent that day. Audrey Hart had engaged in reckless endangerment, false accusation, and harmful misrepresentation. She would receive her diploma but lose commencement participation and senior honors eligibility. Derek Walsh had engaged in evidence manipulation, harassment, intimidation, and attempted bribery. He would not participate in commencement, and further disciplinary action would be placed in his record. Mr. Grant would be removed from student advisory duties pending personnel review. Mrs. Hart began crying. Audrey sat still. Derek shoved his chair back. Mr. Walsh grabbed his arm and hissed, "Don't." Mike whispered, "Smooth graduation achieved." Principal Marsh looked at him. Mike whispered, "Sorry." Whispered achievement. Mom hugged me in the hallway. Dad shook my hand first, then pulled me into a hug. Dad said, "You kept your feet on the dock." I said, "Yes, sir." Dad said, "Good. Sometimes that's harder than jumping." Graduation week felt strange after that. The school kept trying to act normal, but normal had drowned at the picnic and been pulled out by Carla with a rescue board. Audrey's locker was cleared by her mother after hours. Derek's parking spot stayed empty. Mr. Grant's office light stayed off. Principal Marsh announced a new policy on student recordings, emergency response education, and senior event supervision. Mike said the policy should be named Don't Be Derek, MS. Harper said the title lacked professionalism. Mike suggested the Walsh-Hart Aquatic Honesty Act, MS. Harper said, closer. I focused on finals, scholarship forms, and work at the garage. The Scholarship Foundation called me on Wednesday. A woman named MS. Keller said, we received the district certification and supporting documents. Your award remains active. I asked her to repeat it. She did. Mom made me put the phone on speaker. MS. Keller said kindly, you are cleared, Ethan. Congratulations on your graduation. Mom cried into a dish towel. Dad stood in the doorway and nodded once like a judge had ruled in our favor. Mike came over that night with a cake from the grocery store. It said, congrats Ethan, he said. They added an extra A for academic excellence. We ate it anyway. On Thursday, Audrey posted one final statement. This one was not lit perfectly, no music, no comments. Disabled, she sat at her kitchen table with her mother beside her. Audrey said, I crossed a safety barrier to make dramatic content. I expected Ethan Miller to jump in. He did the correct thing by calling 911 and throwing the rescue ring. After I was rescued, I falsely accused him. Derek Walsh edited the video, but I allowed the lie to spread. Ethan did not refuse rescue. I am sorry. The video did not save her reputation. It did stop some of the worst comments. Carla reposted only the safety line. MS. Harper said, that is the first useful thing she has posted. Mike said, growth through consequences, painful but educational. Derek did not apologize. His father issued a statement about youthful mistakes and online mob behavior. It got ratioed so badly he deleted it. A local reporter asked me for a live interview. I declined. Then Mom said a short statement could help close it. So I gave one on the school steps with Dad, Mom, and MS. Harper nearby. Reporter asked, Ethan, after the official findings, what do you want people to learn? I said, use rescue equipment, call professionals, keep the full recording, and don't let anyone turn your safe choice into their fake story. Reporter asked, do you forgive Audrey? I said, I accept the correction. Forgiveness is not a public performance. Mike watched from behind the camera and mouthed, cold. I ignored him. Graduation morning arrived clear and windy. The football field had rows of folding chairs, blue banners, and a stage that looked bigger than it was because everyone had been fighting to reach it. Seniors lined up behind the bleachers in blue gowns. Some slapped my shoulder, some apologized badly. One guy from Derek's table said, I shared the first clip before I knew. I said, next time no first. He nodded and looked at the grass. Audrey was not in line. Derek was not in line. Their empty places said enough. Mr. Grant was not on the faculty row. MS. Harper was. Carla had been invited by Principal Marsh and sat near the front with the park staff. Mom and Dad sat in the first section. Mom had tissues in both hands and still told Dad she did not need tissues. Mike stood behind me with his cap crooked. Mike whispered, this is the most stressful smooth graduation in history. I said, stop saying smooth graduation. Mike said, never, it's my brand. Principal Marsh spoke about responsibility. She did not say Lake, she did not say video, she did not say Audrey, she said, truth is not always the loudest voice in the first hour. Your duty is to wait for the full record before you judge another person. The parents clapped, the seniors clapped harder, names began, students crossed, families shouted, cameras flashed. When my name came, Principal Marsh said, Ethan Miller. Mom stood up first. Dad stood beside her. Mike's mother shouted too because she said I had fed her son too many times not to count as family. I walked across the stage. Principal Marsh shook my hand and said quietly, you earned this in more ways than one. I said, thank you, MS. Harper hugged me at the stairs. MS. Harper said, go build something useful. I said, yes, ma'am. Carla shook my hand near the aisle. Carla said, good throw. I laughed. Carla said, I mean it. Strong arc. Mike crossed later and bowed so low his cap fell off. His mother yelled his full name. The field laughed. After the ceremony, the local reporter waited near the fence. The same one from the board meeting. Reporter asked, Ethan, weeks ago people accused you of refusing to rescue Audrey Hart. Today you graduated in good standing. What is your final answer to that accusation? I held my diploma in one hand and my scholarship folder in the other. Mom stood to my left, Dad stood to my right. Mike hovered behind the reporter until his mother pulled him away by the sleeve. I said, I did not refuse rescue. I refused to be careless. I refused to jump into restricted water when a rescue ring and trained lifeguards were available. I refused to let an edited clip decide my life. Reporter asked, and what about Audrey, who has become a target online? I looked across the parking lot. Audrey sat in her mother's white SUV, not hiding, not performing, just sitting with the window half open. Her diploma would be mailed or picked up later. No stage, no applause, no senior honors, no followers chanting her name. I said, threats are wrong, harassment is wrong. Accountability is enough. Reporter asked, do you have one sentence for students watching this? I said, do the right thing, keep the evidence, and never let someone else's drama drag you under. That clip traveled farther than my first statement. Rescue instructors shared it, teachers shared it, parents shared it. For once, a short clip told the truth because the full record stood behind it. That evening, Dad drove us home past Harlan County Park. The lake was quiet. The warning sign stood bright red beside the dock. The rescue ring hung on its post, clean and still. Dad slowed the truck near the turnoff. Dad said, you know, most people think courage is jumping. Mom said, sometimes courage is calling 911 while fools scream at you. Mike, squeezed in the back with the cake box, said, sometimes courage is spelling Ethan correctly, but the bakery failed that test. I looked out at the water. In one life, that lake had swallowed my graduation, my scholarship, and my name. In this one, I had stayed on the dock, I had thrown the ring, I had made the call, I had kept the video. Audrey became a warning the internet could not stop replaying. Derek became a rich boy with a record instead of a crown. Mr. Grant lost the power to trade truth for image, and I graduated with my parents in the front row, my scholarship intact, and my future still breathing.